number 1, to receive apologies for absence, which are in the book. There's just one, Helen Wardle. And
Robin Stonebridge.
no, he's not there.
Sent his apologies. He had sent it. But he had sent it.
He wasn't likely to attend, he's not attending the council meeting this year.
Okay, do accept those, please. All show. Right. To disclose members' personal interest on any item to be discussed.
There's 11-1, Chair, but I don't know what to sort of declare, because ultimately it'd be my decision if it gets put on the register. I'm happy. I don't think it's necessarily an interest, but I will just make the point that whatever's discussed will not prejudice the decision. Yeah.
Does it come under your remit,
Okay.
Robert?
Yes, it does.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
To
can I only suggest, if it comes under your remit, if you was to leave the room, there's no disgrace in that. You can't get accused of anything then, can you?
At least you'll be aware of
Yeah.
the
No.
council's
I'll
feeling.
not take part in discussion.
You'll be aware of the council's feeling, that's all. Number 3, identify items which the press and public may be excluded. Nothing at this stage. Number 4, to confirm the minutes of the parish council on Monday 17th of November. You've all got copies of them. Page 1. Page 2. And page 3.
Can I come in on page 3, please?
Yes, you can.
Right, on the 8514 standing orders,
Yeah.
at the bottom of this is, and it's on about, when we changed our standing orders, about filming. It says, there is an expectation that reporting will focus on the proceedings of the meeting and those who are participating rather than those who are simply attending. I asked the question then, I didn't get an answer. Are we filming the audience with these 2 cameras above us? Because if we're filming with these 2 cameras, that goes against what we've just said there.
You explain last time, didn't you, Steve?
Yeah, we were taking participating as meaning if the audience were asking questions, it would be filming the audience. Is that what we took participating to mean?
So you can't ask people who are not asking questions to go outside, can you?
Right, can I just come back on that one as well? We attended an area assembly meeting, there were several of us here tonight who were there, and I've forgotten the gentleman's name, from RMBC, and basically he gave the opinion that the way the legislation's written is to hold us, the councillors, to account, not the public. But again, I've asked the question, are we filming the public with these cameras?
I don't know what the cameras are aimed at, but I assume that we're not.
I presume this camera's filming us, which quite rightly it should do.
Those 2, that one and that one.
Right, so that's the
That
question.
corner, that corner there is not being filmed.
No, are the 2 cameras above your head, are they filming the public now?
Those 2, there.
Yes, are they filming the public now?
Can you answer that? That one.
I went on the website tonight to have a look and I can't find where the meetings are.
Chair, point of order.
But I still haven't had an answer to the question yet.
On a point of order, I don't want to stand up. We are agreeing on not the accuracy of the minutes.
That's right.
Not having another
Yeah.
debate.
The chair allowed the question, but he's not answered it yet.
Okay, well I can't give you an answer.
You can't
So
give me
all
an
those in
answer.
favour of approving these minutes, please show. Thank you.
Must be Christmas.
Thank you. To receive the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting 17th and the 10th of December.
Move that, Chair.
Been moved, seconded? I seconded. All those in favour, please show. So just proceeding now. Right. Planning list. New dwelling and access land adjacent to Lindrick, Brighton Road. Got the list? 15
No,
seconds.
another one.
Have we got that?
Yeah. I had it a minute ago.
There were some on the meeting last week, Chair, but they've
You remember?
not got brought onto this one because of the sequence of the minutes going out.
Yeah.
I think there were about 5 plan applications on last week's finance meeting. There were some, weren't there? We didn't get round to discussing them, I seem to think. Before that, that's what I'm saying, the sequence, yes, that's why they couldn't be carried over. But there were some.
Well, the
some on there.
1573 plans are in here.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
There's no objection to it.
What's that?
Plan,
Yeah,
1573,
yeah.
which is what we're discussing.
Well, not necessarily an objection. I'd like to just make comments on it.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, this. I must admit, I've had a look at the plans and where it's squeezed in, and it's. I know there used to be a problem about the back garden developments, but this is a front garden development if you look at it. I'm also concerned it's adding another access onto that bit of Brighton Road near the crossroads, which is not very good at the moment when the traffic backs up there. So you're adding another access in there, and also it looks slightly incongruous because it's a bungalow in between two quite substantial semi-detached houses. It looks totally out of place to me, and I think it's just been really squeezed in. And I think the applicant appears also to be owner of the land. I'm not sure if I read it correctly. Yeah, as I say, I'm not happy about it, and I think I will object personally. Whether the parish, has anybody else has got any objections to it, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just not happy about where it's squeezed in. There's problems there.
Chair, I mean, I had the same conclusion as Clive. I think it is squeezed in, and we've got another inlet off Brighton Road, if there aren't many already. But I didn't think it'd be something that the council wanted to hold a view on, personally, because, you know, I think the neighbours will have their own opinions on that as well. And obviously, personally, we may want to object as well. But if it is moved that the council objects, I will vote to object.
Right, what do you want to do? Leave it to neighbours?
Well, I'd say I've got my views.
There's nothing to stop you.
No, I mean, I don't know what everybody else on the council, if they've had a look at what their views are. I mean, I'm saying as Councillor Beck, I'm not happy with that being squeezed in there. I must admit, I think it's a bit of a forced development, just trying to build on a piece of land that's spare. I wasn't quite sure. I thought that land originally belonged to the house's back garden, so it's been linked to the bungalow around the back, I think, where the applicant lives, unless I'm incorrect. But I think it's going to cause a further problem at the crossroads there, which is one of the traffic lights got hit this morning. They were out for quite a long time, and it was starting to become chaos there. So I think we should be looking to reduce the amount of traffic going onto that road, not increase it. But I mean, I'll move that we place an objection on traffic grounds and its inappropriate development in that area.
Look,
If anybody else.
Yeah, according to the blank card, it just shows one car, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a problem. You put another one in very close to that
I'll
crossroads,
second
John.
that, Chair.
That we object?
Yeah.
That's it. Forward and second. Anybody else got on the grounds of traffic? Still?
What my opinion is on this is, yes, Clive's quite right, it's a bungalow in an area of housing, which is probably not quite appropriate. I personally believe there's not a lot we can do about this one, because I think this is going to be down to the whim of the planning officer on the day, whether he's going to allow a building to take place inside a garden. So I'm going to yeah, I mean, but yeah, you're right. Traffic might have a view, but highways don't seem to have that much input, in my opinion, to the planning. I'm going to abstain on this if it goes to the vote, because I think the bungalow's probably inappropriate, but I don't believe that we will have that much influence. I think it's going to be a planning decision on the day.
don't try, you can't complain when the result doesn't suit you.
Yeah.
Now, my view is that that road, all right, it's a far side of the crossroads, it's only going to get more busy as time goes by. If we are concerned, you put your hand up and say, I want to express reservations or object.
Yeah.
It actually says in there clearly that it's going to be a decision by a planning officer. They are trained, they're not, they're not capricious, so they will make a sensible judgment. But if we object, we can at least say, well, we tried.
Well, we've got a proposal and a seconder that we object. All those in favour, please, on grounds of traffic
Yep.
and inappropriate development. All those in favour, please show.
Can I just make one further comment about planning issues, Chair? Because we didn't get to those last week, there was one I think that's been caused a lot of problems in the village, which is the one on Main Street about the hoardings and stuff like that. And I've got a feeling that we might be, by the time we meet again in January, we're going to be too late on that. And I'm trying to think there were a couple of others that were on there, but I think that one at Main Street has caused problems. I think what they're trying to do now is actually rectify what they've done. And it's sort of like retrospective planning, but highways weren't happy about that situation all day, so it may well get turned down, whatever they're applying for. But it's just the fact that it's slipped through the net, unfortunately.
I know there's a piece of history gone there as well there, because there's a road sign.
Yeah, it was the old West Riding
West
one
Riding
that's
County Council that showed Lawton and
yeah, Councillor Baker raised this a couple of years since, and it was one of the really old ones, and somebody I think has taken it. And it's it wasn't the developer, it was gone before they started on there. I think somebody just taken it.
Yeah. Right. Infrastructure levy.
Chair,
yes.
Sorry, can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Before we go on to the community infrastructure levy, can I request that we bring forward items 11 in the whole to this point of the meeting? These items 11 1 through to 9 I think it is, have now been, some of these items have been sat on the agenda since September.
Yeah.
Can I ask that you bring these items forward to this part of the meeting as a matter of urgency?
Well, that's up to the decision of the council. All in favour? Are you proposing that?
Well, I don't know if I can propose it because it's not on the agenda, but I'm quite sure if you were to make a decision, I'm quite sure people would agree with it. Well, I'm quite sure if you make a decision, I'm quite sure most of us would agree.
I wouldn't agree with that. I think one of the problems we have in the council is the fact that the public session, I think, took 40 minutes.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 10. It ended up as an argument rather than a question and answer. Secondly, if we got our finger out and got on with it, we would knock all these questions off by 9 o'clock at the latest. So it's up to us.
Yeah.
Really shifting them, I think, means other things. Let's be brief, get on with it.
Yeah.
I think what we should do, Chair, is I think we should, you say you agree with it and we'll put it to the vote.
Right, in that case, we'll crack on and see if change it later if necessary.
I wonder why we won't do it. Oh, right. We'll still do it in February if we have to.
Well, we can look at the planning list 46. There's two on there: Edinburgh Drive, New House and Garage, land off Main Street for hoardings and flagpoles. You want to start? Yeah, Edinburgh Drive.
That's just a brand new house on
new house,
land at the back of
land off Main Street.
New House and Garage. I think that one's
hoardings and flagpoles. No problem. Lindrick Dale, extension with balcony.
You want to speak on the flagpole?
Yeah, I wanted to on the flagpole one. I don't think everybody's probably got all the information. I was going to have another look at it again. So if I have a look, and can I make a comment on it on behalf of the council, because it's I think it's a retrospective application for the hoardings which have been causing problems for people's vision around there, and I think traffic has got a view on that. So I'll follow that one up if you want, rather than.
The members agree with that?
Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah. Wood Mill, Lindrick Dale, extension with balcony.
Neighbours.
Yeah, that actually is it could be very nice when it's done. That it's our new golfing star from Rotherham, I understand, that owns that.
List 47, 47 Hawthorne Avenue, extension and garage.
Neighbours.
Neighbours and planners.
Right, neighbours. And, where's Colbeck Place? Oh yes, Colbeck Place, right, well, it's
Listed.
extension, number 11.
Yeah, that's
Neighbours.
neighbours and,
The other side.
no, well, I'll agree.
Right, okay, we can move on then. Community infrastructure levy, deadline 5th of January, draft charging schedule November 2014. Any comments?
Yeah, can I speak on this? And I
Yeah.
went to the just remind me, my parish network meeting last Tuesday night. Councillor Thornton and the clerk were there as well. This has come round for about its 4th attempt, community infrastructure levy. Sorry, Mrs. Sadler. Yeah, it's about a 3rd or 4th attempt. It's come round at. There's still there were quite a lot of comments made on it by various parish councils because it does affect a lot throughout the borough. And this is the charge that they're going to levy against developers for building on Greenbelt, basically. Well, any building site under the local development plan. And the problem that I raised and one or two other people did was the Dinnington, Northampton area is considerably lower than anywhere else in the borough in an attempt to get developers to build it. I think it's £15 a square metre, which will bring in very little in the way of money for the parishes or the town councils to spend. Although Dinnington have got a lot of houses, they will get a reasonable amount, but I don't think it will cater for what the problems that all that building will bring. And I did ask David Edwards, who sent this out, to have a look at the Northampton Southampton split, because if you're building Northampton it's £15 a square metre. I think if you're building Southampton it's 30 something like £30 a square metre, and I couldn't understand that because theoretically the one on Main Street, Pennypiece Lane, is a nice greenfield site overlooking Sheffield, and that would be £15 a square metre, and whereas something in Southampton would be £30 a square metre, maybe Plaxton's, I'm not sure where the boundary falls. But I thought that was quite strange that the better site was actually going to bring in less revenue from developers, that they would go there first. So they've gone back to have a look at 1 or 2 points, but I think we've got to make a comment by January the 5th, so whether we go along those lines. I mean, obviously everybody wants to get Plaxton's developed, I think, to get something done on it, because it's an eyesore at the moment. But the theory is that if they charge less, they'll encourage developers. But my point was, if you're building on a nice greenfield site at Thropeham, and you're only paying £15 a square metre, you get killed in the rush, I think, as they decided to get out there and build on it. So, you know, Moorgate is £60 a square metre, and the nice open rural countryside is £15 a square metre, which I think is totally incongruous. It's the wrong way around.
Sure.
Yeah, just 1 or 2 other little points on that. I mean, there's quite a lot of information on that meeting. And I've just forgotten what I was going to say. Right. One of the things that came up is, under this community infrastructure levy, there are certain exemptions. Certain buildings are exempt from the, we'll call it, tax. One of the items that's exempt is affordable homes. Now the question was asked, what was an affordable home, and I don't think really the answer came out yet again. But one of the answers, and I'm looking at Claire now to make sure I'm right what I'm saying, is one of the things that came out, it's not envisaged that very many, if not at all, there will be any affordable homes built in Rotherham. Is that what it actually said? It says something very simple.
I think the number is going to be not that high at the end of the day. The only thing I can do is ask all councillors to read the document that's been sent through from David. Unfortunately, it's not in colour, so you'll have to work out which is Rotherham rural and urban. But it's the big. Well, I think Kivington and Wales are a higher price per square metre than Northampton. So I think the number of affordable homes is open to question at the moment, because I don't think it's an educated guess as to how many will appear on the market, and they rely on being taken up by social landlords. If the social landlords have not got any money, then obviously the numbers go down. But it's a work in progress, so I think it's going to be adopted by next year. So we'll know the results summertime. Well, I would ask everybody to. When does it close, Mike? Is it 5th of January? I think if anybody's reached through it, and I say my objection is really the sort of amount of money that's going to come back. And I know the money they get from the infrastructure levy is not going to pay for everything that's going to happen in the area, which is, I think we all appreciate that. But I think there's something like a 50 million shortfall that they envisaged, even after all the houses were built, there would be 50 million short to pay for all the infrastructure. But I say all that's been sent out, so if people want to read it and want to make comments about that, just send them to David Edwards and he'll have a look at them.
Stuart, can you wrap it up now?
Yeah, I think as a council we should make some comments as a parish council, as well as if individuals want to make their own comments. I think we should definitely make a comment, and again I'm looking at Clive for information as well, about this discrepancy between North and South Anston. And obviously the comments would be we want the North Anston to go up to the same price as South Anston, but as we know it'll probably come down. So I'd like to make a proposal that as a council we write to, I'm just looking at David Edwards, and again I'm looking at Clive about this North and South Anston issue. We write and say that we need that to be revisited.
Right. The proposal is that Clive put something together on this report and comes back to the clerk. Is all in favour of that?
Yes, but what is the general gist of what's...
What is it? In Northampton they're charging 15, but in Southampton they're charging 30. So
we're wanting parity. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, to revisit that issue again, hopefully to get both the higher price.
Right, well, if you're all in favour of that, Clive can do that. The authorising of sealing documents. No, nothing on that. So received communication sent by Parish Council, no resolution made through. Number one, to discuss a letter from the resident regarding budget consultation. This is from Mr Dickens. Got in the back. There's only one thing, George, I'm very sorry that it's got to this stage, but the thing is it's been on the agenda 4 times for the finance meeting, and every time the meeting's been cancelled. So we've not been able to get round to doing what we said we were going to do. It's in the minutes, and you can see why it's been, you can see that it's been cancelled. It's the minutes that were signed. And in fact the one the other night was cancelled, apart from signing the cheques, because nobody wanted to be chairman. That's how we got to. Not one person on the committee wanted to take the job as chairman, because the chairman...
I volunteered.
I
volunteered.
But you were not on the committee, Stuart.
But I still volunteered.
There were only 5 people there.
Yeah, there were only 5 people there, so it only just quorum. So that's the reason. And as soon as something does happen, George, I can assure we'll let you know. We've had 2 meetings already on the...
John, why have you left it till now?
We haven't left it...
How you were going to consult? You could have done all that.
I think the point's been made, George. It has been on agenda since September.
No.
Unfortunately, no.
You could have discussed this January last year.
Okay, but we've had since September.
You've not done it. You left it on last minute.
No, every meeting since September's been cancelled. We could have discussed in September, October, which would have been plenty of time. We've not been able to hold the meeting, unfortunately.
You're missing the point. You could have started deciding how to consult, not the actual consultation, how you were going to do it last January. And you left it right till September.
Yeah. Right.
Excuse
anyway,
me.
That's the answer, George, I'm afraid.
Excuse me.
That's the answer.
Excuse me.
So we're going to move... No, there's no... That's it. We can't go into that.
No, right, listen. There's an item on the agenda, and I've purposely sat here and waited to give everybody else an opportunity to speak. And nobody really wanted to speak until Mr Dickens decided to speak himself.
Right, which item are you referring to, Stuart?
Right, we're referring to the item that you've just talked about. Well, you've just spoke about it, so you should know what it is.
I've just said that we haven't held a finance meeting for 4 meetings, which have been
Right,
cancelled.
so what item was we discussing?
Well, you've got to get approval from the, as you move on, by the finance
Oh,
committee.
right.
And we haven't.
Nothing to do with the finance committee,
And how
Chair.
many budget meetings have we had?
Two.
We've had 2,
Right.
we've already had 2 budget meetings.
Let's just take a step back. Right, what item were we discussing? We was discussing a letter, was we not?
Yeah, what were we discussing?
I think he's trying to get to the point where we're discussing 9-1, I think, as well.
Chair.
Stuart saying.
Chair,
Yeah,
we're on 9.1 and I think
Mr. Dickens has
the
left.
general gist of Mr Dickens's letter that we've not had a chance to discuss yet for the reasons you've already gave
Yeah.
is because of the finance committee that it's been on that we've not had. I think the general gist of the sentiments of the letter is how we're going to consult. The answer is I've not seen it come up at any meeting yet about a discussion about how we will consult. And that includes all of us. That I've not seen this come up from any member of the council about how we consult on this. I wasn't at the last budget meeting we had last Thursday, so I don't know whether it was discussed there, but I quite agree that we should consult on the budget for next year. How we do that I don't know, and who's going to lead on it I don't know.
When's the next meeting? When's the next meeting? Tuesday the 22nd is the next meeting.
It's 23rd.
I'll just George, just to clear it up, read the minute 79:14, the minutes of the finance meeting on 8th, 14th, 20th of October and the 3rd of November were received. They were cancelled anyway. Tuesday the 23rd.
Tuesday the 23rd?
Of this month.
Of this
What
month.
time?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Budget meeting.
What time?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30.
Not 6, Gordon.
6.
Peter on forward, Gordon.
What, 6:30? Right, 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Chair, are we discussing budget meetings here, or are we trying to discuss this letter? We've been at it 5 minutes and we've not got nowhere.
I've answered Mr Dickens, and I've given him a reason why he's not being...
Can I just make a point here, Chair? I've read this quite a few times in meetings actually. It might not have well been minuted, but I did broach the issue about. Sorry, Mr Dickens. Apologise. I have raised this once or twice about. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yes, you're on.
I have raised this several times about the consultation, and say it may well not have been minuted, but when we got to September, we knew we were going to be running behind time again, and unfortunately we've not got any budget meetings organised till December, so we can't put a consultation on until we started having budget meetings. I agree the fact that some of the meetings have been cancelled, but we could still have organised meetings by just emails, I would have thought, and brought it forward. I know we're not going to know certain issues from the Borough Council anyway to enable us to make a decision until the new year, so it's a bit of a sort of like mixed bag at the moment, but as I say, I have raised it before, but we didn't take any decision on when we were going to do it, so I'm disappointed that we've not made any progress on that, especially when we've said for the last couple of years that we were going to endeavour to do that, and we've not done it.
Right.
4 years ago.
Right. Okay, move on, yes, Julie.
Just to say that at the last budget meeting we did task the clerk with going away to draft some questions in preparation for the consultation, and he'll bring those back to the next budget meeting with a view to putting them on SurveyMonkey. I believe that was what we agreed.
It was?
First things first, I thought that meeting was confidential, and I've already got a complaint against me for releasing confidential information. Surprise, surprise. Right, can I now
May I just
tell her not
answer
to
that?
interrupt while I'm speaking, please?
That was irrelevant, Stuart.
Right, just hang on. I haven't had my say on this letter yet. We've now got a council interrupting. We've got the other council sat here laughing, thinking it's funny, and you've done nothing about it. So do you think it's acceptable for the council to be sat there laughing?
I don't.
Right, well tell him it's not acceptable. See, he's talking over me now.
Well, come on,
Right.
and then we'll come and move on.
Mr Dickens has taken time and effort to write to us over this so-called budget last year,
Yeah.
he makes 6 important points. And one of them he says that the first point is the budget was already more or less agreed last year before it went out for consultation. I totally agree with him. The decision on whether to give the workers a rise, the tree issue, the £10,000 for the trees and facilities, them decisions were already made, and it was highly unlikely that it was going to change. His second point, the budget so-called consultation appeared on the Parish Council website over the Christmas period. Again, he's right. Who does a consultation over the Christmas period unless you're trying to hide something? That's the normal way it's seen. His third point, again another relevant point, is many Anston residents don't have computers. So if we're going to consult on a budget, why are we only doing it on a computer that probably quite a few people, elderly people in Anston, have no access to? His fourth point, there was no indication of the total expenditure being considered and how this affected precept or parish rate. Again, it's quite right, is Mr Dickens. The consultation only included a wage rise, £10,000 for trees, I think £10,000 for facilities, and I can't remember what the fourth thing was, if there was. It wasn't a consultation on a budget, it was a consultation on 4 different items. His fifth point, there was no indication of outcome likely to be expected from the parish assets. I think what Mr Dickens means there is, there was nothing for the public to see how much income we possibly may be getting from our assets that we own. And his one of the last things is put, there was no indication of how major changes in benefit legislation affected this year's budget, i.e. the grant from RMBC, and this how may affect future years. I'm quite sure that the public don't even know we have a grant from Rotherham. So again, the 6 very valid points. In fact, he goes on to say, and I'll read this part, Councillor Ireland, the Parish Council Chairman, acknowledged the so-called consultation to have been very poor and promised residents more thought would be given to the consultation in time for the 2015-2016 budget, which is this year. So what consideration have we given?
Well, the only thing I can say is that we don't know about number 6 because until Rotherham tell us. But
you should know about number 6 because it affects you when you.
You cannot put anything out for consultation until you've actually got something to put out.
Chair.
Yeah.
Right. Point number 1. I believe, as an individual, that I was elected to actually make decisions on behalf of the public. So, although there may well be a time and place for consultation, essentially this parish council should make decisions. Secondly, the parish group that are trying to do the budget will only make a recommendation, and it will only become fact after it's gone on the website and after the parish council has agreed or modified it. Thirdly, I'm intrigued that Mr Dickens says that there aren't many computers in Anston. That flies in the face of the second parish council questionnaire, which showed that every child who took the trouble to answer the questionnaire had access at home to the internet. Now, I accept that there will be some older people who haven't got that facility, but in my experience, I'm staggered at the number of people who have got an email address and do access emails from home. The other thing is, and I'm not going to, I'm going to say it, this letter I think we first got was in October. Because one councillor will not accept the ruling of the council, 4 or 5 finance meetings have been abandoned. That is a fact. Now, if they had not been abandoned, if the council had abided by the rules of the council, this thing would have been discussed in October. Final point, and it's not necessarily a go at you, Clive, it's open to any of us from June, July onwards to say, I move that we start the budget process in September. Get a seconder, debate it. It has never been suggested.
I'd like a right to reply on that, because the budget meetings is normally the place where the consultation has been discussed. And when the budget issue came up, it was put to the councillors, what date would you like? And nobody around the table that night had any clue when we were going to have budget meetings. So when Councillor St John starts to blame me, for holding the budget meetings up, etc., and holding finance up. He ought to remember, I think he was at that meeting and he didn't have a clue when the budget meetings were going on. I can't stop budget meetings if the council hasn't got any dates. And the reason they didn't have the dates is because the dates wasn't put in front of them. But let's go a bit further. We're going about consultation. I remember rightly last year that Councillor St John, who doesn't live in Anston, filled in the consultation document, but not only that, he tried to do it twice. I find that, in my opinion, that's fraudulent, for want of a better word. Not only does he not live here and feels trying to influence the outcome of a consultation, will you ask him to stop interrupting me?
Yeah.
Not only is he trying to influence the outcome of a consultation in this village, he doesn't live here and he doesn't pay our taxes.
Clive doesn't live here.
Well, yeah, but,
Julie Dalton doesn't live here.
Chair,
but he didn't try to
Chair.
fill it out twice, did he?
could I...
No, but the computer will only accept one. I didn't know that it would only accept one.
Well, we found
I
that
didn't know
out because
that.
Councillor St John said he
Did
tried it
everybody know
twice.
that?
Chair,
It only accepts one answer from one household.
Chair, we're getting bogged down. The points have been made. As I said before, I sympathise with what Mr Dickens has raised, and as a council we can only apologise we've not discussed it earlier, and the reason have been given for that. I suggest we move progress and that we do consult, and that at the next budget meeting again we decide how and when we're going to do that.
Right, the next item, to consider to approve the wording for a plaque at Anston Burial Ground. You know, if you remember, because it advertised the fact that it came from a particular church, it was objected to by some councillors, so they decided to ask them to remove it. They reworded it, which is now...
Donated by the Plymouth Brethren.
Donated by the Plymouth Brethren Christian
I move
Church.
that we accept that.
Can I just speak on that, please? I could do with just a bit of guidance from the clerk on this. Last Wednesday we had an item on the agenda about the burial ground regulations, which all this ties in with. And I'm not wishing to stop it, but I'd like to have this deferred so we can actually discuss that first and then regularise the plaque and everything like that. Because there are certain. It says if you read the seats, John, it says in memorial or in memorial of. This one doesn't. So you've really got to look at your burial ground regulations and rejig them to suit what you want to. I have no objection to that, but I'm saying you can't put the cart before the horse. We should have discussed this last week, which is why the clerk put it on the agenda. We didn't get round to doing that. We've still got to revisit that in January. I'd like to do that, and then we'll follow up with the plaque and everything else associated with it. So I think we need to get in the right order.
Well, I'd like to propose...
Because we're responsible for what was in that burial ground, and we need to get that sorted out.
That we accept this plaque.
Ian.
I moved it. I mean, I want to second it.
Yeah, right, I'd propose a
I
second.
also want to say something as well, that we did have a meeting, it was a week or two ago, the Burial Ground Committee, and Clive was invited to identify his concerns. And what we realised was that in the regulations it does say that individual memorials have to be, I think, specific to a person, but it doesn't actually say anything about benches. And we did say a couple of things. One is, I think at the time my understanding was that we agreed that this wording on the bench was acceptable, but we also did say that as a group, because we'd had such a lot of help from a lot of different people and a lot of groups and so on and so forth, that we thought it was right and proper and to acknowledge that help, that it actually made the burial ground feel that it actually belonged to the community when so many people were involved in it, and so many people saying how nice it looked and appreciative of what has happened. And so we felt that this new wording on the bench was actually quite acceptable, and similar things, a big item like the bench. It's not a personal item of memorial. It's for everyone to use. Yes. So that
anyway,
was...
we've got a proposal and a second that we accept this wording. Would Andrew like to make an amendment to that?
We've got two.
Just accept the plaque.
Move the vote.
No,
We've
I
got more to speak on this one.
Pardon?
We've got more to speak on this one. What's the proposal?
The proposal is that we accept donated by the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church. End of story.
Right, I would like to make an amendment.
What's the amendment?
I would like to remember is that we accept the wording as presented,
Yeah.
subject to approval of the bench being cited in its current position by council. What I'm saying there is, we have to approve the bench being put there, because it never came to council for approval, which it has to. And then once that's been done, it will automatically follow this wording.
Anybody second that?
Can I just make one further?
Is anybody second that? Anybody
No.
second that amendment?
No.
Right, so the
Well, I was proposing that we rejig
Chair,
the building.
Clive, with respect, mate.
Can I just finish it?
No, we're actually,
I know, well,
sorry, we are actually,
It's right.
Chair, standing on point of order, I think 3 or 4 times tonight, I've asked you to stop Councillor St John talking over people
No,
and
Councillor
interrupting.
St John stood up and made a point
You're doing
of
it with
order.
me now. Listen, I've asked 3 or 4 times, and 3 or 4 times you've done absolutely nothing at all. We've just got another example where he's talking over another councillor when he's trying to talk. You need to get
Chair.
it up and take charge of the meeting.
Sit down.
it's a point of order. Clive,
So you've got it now. You were speaking first.
will you
a point of
please,
order.
Chair, if he would let me finish. The fact is, I moved a motion and it was seconded.
Yes.
Clive then spoke. I hate to say this, under the rules of debate,
That's it.
everybody can speak once, and the mover can sum up.
Right, does anybody want to speak? Everybody happy?
No.
So we'll take a vote on this. We'll vote
Doing it
all
wrong
those
way.
in favour of this plaque.
We're doing it the
Go
wrong
down
way
the chair.
round.
Please show.
Can I have a recorded vote, please, Chair?
Yeah, of course you can.
Doing it the wrong way round.
There's other processes we should be following before we
We're not
accept.
following our own rules at this point in time. We're ruling things and then going back to
Technical standards,
regulation.
every councillor who's now voted yes has just, in effect, gone against the rules we have.
Yeah. Right, Councillor Baker?
Against.
Councillor Beck?
Paul.
Councillor Bridges?
Four.
Councillor Burton?
Four.
Councillor Crowther?
Or,
Councillor Dalton?
Four.
Councillor Ireland? Councillor Jarvis?
Against.
Councillor Jepson?
Against.
Councillor O'Brien?
Four.
Councillor St John?
for,
Councillor Dalton?
Against. We need to follow procedure and we're not
Right,
doing that.
that's
No.
carried. Right,
We're approving things we've not
hold on.
approved.
That sums up to councillor.
I might say that this is about the plaque on the seat. If you want to decide where it goes, that's another item. You can put it on the agenda for another hearing. But at this stage, we're just saying, is that plaque suitable? And the answer is yes, it is.
Nobody's arguing.
If you want the chair moving, if you want to move the seat somewhere else,
No, I'm not about moving the seats, I'm on about our rules and regulations that we've got that we're not following. That's what we,
We haven't approved the bench in the first place,
Right.
which every other bench has had to be approved.
shall I move progress, Chair?
Right, the next item on the agenda is to discuss a letter from Lafarge Tarmac Trading Limited regarding Lindwick and Branchcliffe quarries. Now, we had this discussion a couple of years ago because one of the quarries has got a special, I know you've got something to say, Steve, but it's got a special flora and fauna there, there's butterflies or something, it's a special place. But they're offering to give us, or on offer to us, we've got to negotiate if we want it, is, you've got the plans, you've got the pictures, it's right at the bottom of Lindwick Dale, across the bridge, and on the left-hand side, the quarry, and the woods right down to the railway line, and then right round the corner of the bend, Branchcliffe Junction, down to a big quarry which goes up towards the main railway line. That's plots 1, 2 and 3. Those are the things that do you want us to proceed with discussions? That's where it's at.
Chairman, I'd like to speak on this.
Yeah.
We need to see this for what it is and not what it's supposed to be by the vendor. The vendors obviously no longer have use for these quarries. They've sold all their other interests. Anything that was of any use to anyone has gone. What's left are their liabilities, for want of a better term. they, in my view, are asking the parish council to take on those liabilities.
Yep.
And from what I can see, I attended the meeting, as did Councillor Thornton, Councillor Jackson and Councillor Dalton, that was about 3 weeks ago. The liabilities are quite considerable. There's a possible liability for an access track that serves 3 or 4 properties that would need possibly maintaining. There's a bridge over a river that would need either maintaining or checking structural reports on. We've then got the fact that one of the quarries is a triple SI, which means that nothing can be done with it. And again, there's certain liabilities that may be incurred there. The second quarry, Bradford quarry, that's been offered, it's not clear whether there's any access to that land at all. The agent couldn't make it clear whether they would retain any access rights to that. This, as far as I'm concerned, is a big company wanting us to take on their liability forevermore. And I personally can't see doing as due diligence on spending public money, which is what we would be doing if we took this on, not for a purchase but for ongoing maintenance. I can't see that we're going to gain anything by it. It's just going to be a big money pit. I would like to make a proposal that we write back to them saying, considering the liabilities that we're going to incur if we take this on, that we're not really interested in the fact that the parish council already owns, I think, 120 acres of woodland and probably around 60 acres of grassland. It's not that we haven't got any land or any public amenities for people at the village. We're not going to be gaining anything. We're going to be losing money, probably to the tune of around £10,000 a year. I think it's a non-starter myself. That's my view on it.
Take your point. The thing about it, Steve, is that until we've had a proper discussion with them, we don't know what's expected of them, because their letter doesn't say anything like that. Anything as that.
So it's the retake it all.
There's got to be some fors and against. I'd like to know what the against are, and I'd like to know what the fors are. This doesn't tell me.
I'm just told what the
Yeah, but there's nothing in writing about that. I mean, what's to say that when you have a discussion, we say, we take it over, but you retain that.
There's no money from the party at all. They're not putting any money into it at all. That's what I said.
Chair, I couldn't attend the site visit, but I picked up that Steve was if you like, against it. It's his perfect right. But I don't know how many years ago it is, but I walked, I must have been chair, I walked with Michael into this land and elsewhere. I think they eventually got, is it called Fanfield? They actually leased that to a farmer. I think one of the reasons why they were offering it is because when Harry Cross Quarry was in operation, we met, I think, every 3 months, and our relationships with David Atkinson were extremely cordial. And even when residents from Southampton wanted to come to complain about the blasting, he was more than happy, A, to have them in the meetings, and secondly, invite them to the quarry to see what was going on. So I think Lafarge, or whatever it's now called, has been very positive. I think a possible way forward would be to invite the agent to an informal private meeting with the council to talk about these points. You may well be right, Steve, but years ago, all right, Kiverton, whatever it was, Rural District Council offered Anson Stones Wood, and the parish council then took it. At a previous time, they offered what we call Lindrick Village Green, and we took it, or the parish council took it.
We didn't own it.
This is land that the public would then have, if you like, if we accepted it, would have free right to walk through. And I think it's worth it. But somebody, but well, the fact is that people say, get hold of land, they're not making it any longer. And I think it would be very short-sighted to simply decide now we're not interested. I take your point. I think it would be more beneficial to invite Lafarge to come to an informal meeting with the councillors, and we can try and thrash it out. Can I move? Sorry,
Can I come in?
John, I'm forgetting. Can I move that as a resolution that we invite, without any prejudice, we invite Lafarge to?
Anybody second that?
I want to propose an amendment that we write to Lafarge or Savills saying that given the current situation where the liabilities are not known, we could not possibly proceed on that pretext.
We could not possibly proceed. Well, that just negates that.
Well, we're bringing negates
That
into it
just
now,
negates
aren't we?
the proposals.
So when I say things negate,
Yeah.
but can I come in now?
Yeah.
Right. The first thing is this is just one big, massive money pit for the council if we take this on. The second thing is we've already had informal talks with Savills who represent Lafarge. That was the idea of the site meeting, which only 4 people out of the council decided to turn up on. You had your opportunity then to ask questions, but if you wasn't there, that's not our fault. Can I just go on to a few more points of why it's going to be a money pit? If we take this on, we will be responsible for the track, for the whole length of, from the bridge all the way down to the railway bridge. That track was relayed by Lafarge last spring, and it's already rutted. So immediately we took that over, we would have repair bills for the road. The second thing is, one of the locals who... Do you insist on coughing at the time?
My apologies, Stuart.
Right. You see again, he's interrupted. He just stands up whenever he feels like it. Right. And now he's walking around the room. Is this anybody can do anything at this meeting, Chair, or are you going to chair the meeting?
He's trying to relieve his throat.
I think everybody's just seen for what it is. Right, let me carry on if I can. The track will already be as soon as we take it over, be repaired. The gentleman who lives, I think it's Fanfield Farm, quite kindly let us know that that road is prone to flooding every year if the lake is not maintained, which then presents us with another problem. As Stephen quite rightly said, it's a triple SI site, but on that site at the moment, there's several hundreds, if not more, silver birch trees. Now what was said is, and I use the word what they said is, maybe, and the word is maybe, a grant from Natural England to remove the silver birch. So there's already some plan somewhere to remove the silver birch. Now I'm suggesting that if there's no grant available, and we then own that triple SI site, we're going to be responsible for probably moving the silver birch, which is another cost. Carrying on from there, there's no legal document as far as we're aware that the people who live beyond the railway bridge, i.e. the people in the cottages or Fanfield Farm, there's no record if they are able to or have to by law contribute to the upkeep and maintenance of the track. And also, Savills were going to go away and have a look to see if there's any legal rights of way, i.e. who has a legal right of way down that track. This is a money pit waiting to happen. There's no legal issues solved. It's going to incur vast maintenance quantities, and all it is a quarry which you can't do nothing with.
Right, sure. Thank you. I'll take your point on that. The thing is that I can't make it, well, I wouldn't like to make a decision without any more information.
But you could have come to the meeting and you didn't.
Well, I've never told the information then, in writing. No, do you know what we're... No, of course you haven't. You don't have that to have a proper discussion to get them to put a proposal. And that's what I would like them to do. And then I can say yes or no. Not just, we might have to do this, and they might not be able to do that, and they might have to... It's all a matter of conjecture. Let's get them to put it in writing, have a meeting. I agree with Councillor Sinton. Get them together, round the table, let's all have a talk, and let them put it right to what we make a decision. I can't make a decision on willy-nilly might be one bid.
Can I just speak on this, Chair? I was at that meeting, and I mean, Stephen and Stuart both said the similar sort of things are happening. If we take this on, we're also responsible for some fencing around the top of that quarry. We've got to make sure that that's maintained. So we're going to have to send staff down there on a regular basis to check all this out. We've got suggestions from the floor that we take other duties on as a parish council during the winter and things like that. We're not having enough with 3 ground staff to do all that. They're going to be all over the place, and I can't see this. I mean, much as I'd like to take it on board, I don't really see what benefit it's going to be to the parish council at the end of the day. I think, having been at the budget meetings, I don't think we've got any money that we can apply to this anywhere over the next year, and certainly next couple of years, because things are only going to get worse. So,
Julie?
I'm not in favour of taking their offer up, and I support Stephen's suggestion, and I'll second that.
Yeah, Chair, I'm sorry my colleagues take such a dim view of this
It's not
opportunity.
dim. It's not dim.
Realistic, not dim.
It's not an opportunity.
Well, you know, this is the 2 pieces of land which could be an asset to Anston Parish Council should they choose to go forward with it. And I think it's really important to go that step further, and the letter suggests that it would be exploring further possibility. Explore further the possibility of transferring the land. Therefore, a meeting with Savills does not commit us to any purchase. It does enable us to answer the questions and the notions that have been put forward are quite correct in terms of some of the liabilities that come along with this opportunity, but there are also other opportunities that we could take, possibly, to finance these things. So, you know,
elaborate on that, Councillor.
In what way?
As to what these other opportunities that are funding out.
Well, there's lots of, I mean, we've already talked about Natural England possibly funding the removal of the birch trees, and it is possible that other people might be interested in coming together to make this work. I don't know what they are at the moment, Stephen, but if you go in with a closed face, you will never know. If you go in with an open opportunity, look at it as an opportunity and at least explore the issue. Well, I see it differently from you.
Dominic?
Yeah, Chair. I don't think there's any harm in having a discussion with them. It's obviously not a insignificant discussion that we need to have. They've taken the time to contact us. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the site visit here. Others weren't either. I would move that we go to the vote, and that we either bring them in or we don't, however the vote goes. But we are under rules of debate.
Can I just go through the chair? Can I just go through the chair and ask Councillor Dalton how much she would imagine that this is going to cost us over the period of, say, 3 years?
I don't think that's the issue, Stuart. The thing is, it's not going to cost us anything to talk to them. And there's a motion on the floor. That means you've got one chance to speak for 3 minutes. You've had yours.
If you've
Anybody
no
else?
idea of money, how can you
Anybody?
potentially accept anything?
Yeah, well,
It's to do with what's in the letter, but it says completion of restoration in this letter. Well, they've not done any restoration at all at either side. So that is one thing that if we're going to have a meeting with them.
That's Steve, those are the things I want written down in paper so I can make a judgment. Just willing that we've all got different ideas, everybody's got different ideas, and I want to know what they want to expect of us, and then I can say, no, I don't agree with it, or yes, I do.
But we already know because we attended the meeting.
Sorry, will you allow me to sum up?
Yes.
Right. I mean, I understand that Steve and Stuart and Clive are against it. That's fine. But I do think it'll be worthwhile sitting around a table talking to them.
All those in favour of the motion?
Right, sorry, Chair, can you read out the motion again, please?
We just asked a formal discussion with...
No, read out loud because I can't hear what the clerk's saying.
We can't hear.
Invite Savills to the parish for an informal discussion.
Right. And can I have a recorded vote as well,
Yes,
please?
you can. So that's it. To invite them to an informal discussion, so we know what we're talking about. Because I haven't got a clue I've listened to 6 different.
So you had an opportunity to go to the meeting.
It's all in a second.
Is it? How are we defining informal discussion? Are we having a talk here?
Yeah, here.
Inviting
Well,
them
we
here.
have discussions with the...
Yeah, well, you're going to get it and have it minutes and have it down on paper.
A minuted
A minuted discussion, yes. Well, that's right then.
Well, I think,
if we have a discussion with
Right, Chair, point of order, we've had the debate, we're now going to the vote.
All those in favour?
So what we saying is it's going to be a minute in.
No, we're saying if you invite someone to the bar, will be
And for discussion.
Oh, yes.
Again, right.
Paul.
Bridges,
Abstain.
Burton,
4. Williams.
Grounder,
Paul.
Dalton,
4.
Ireland,
4.
Jarvis,
Abstain.
Jefferson, O'Brien,
4.
Injun,
4.
Dalton,
Against.
Could have saved about
That's
5
carried,
minutes.
that's what we'll do, we'll have a meeting with them.
The point that was being made is we've already had the informal discussion. If people can't be bothered to turn up, that's not happening.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to find out what they do with the land.
To receive an
We don't
email on
have-
behalf of
We need to make sure lots of people
Skate
turn up.
25.
Could we receive this? It's a thanks, isn't it?
Apparently Lafarge are waiting for legal advice, so we can't have a meeting until they've got their legal advice. They come.
Could we receive 9-4 with thanks, Chair?
Yeah, both seconded?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes, we agree. That's all right. To discuss an email from RMBC regarding sandbags. What that's Following a review of the sandbags that were distributed to parish councils, it has been decided to contact parish councils who did not want the sandbags at the time to see if they would find it useful to have a local supply of sandbags in case of any further localised flooding incidents. Right. Who's frightened about being flooded living in South Anderson?
I'm not sticking my hand up in front of me. Chair, Michael, did we have any sandbags last time?
No.
I move that we don't reply when we don't need sandbags.
We've never had floods.
I think they're worried about flooding into, and the only thing that we've got is the drains. If the drains are cleaned out, it should flood, it should be taken away. And they've increased their machines for sucking out drains too. And that's what I was told by them, Mr.
Right. And I'm looking at Mr. Pearson when I'm talking now. What this letter is doing is they're asking us, nothing wrong, you'll find out why I'm looking at it. Again, we have RMBC are asking us to store pallets of 50 sandbags. They don't say how many pallets. They give us the dimensions, it's 1.5 by 1.5 by 1.5. It tells us they're going to be on pallets. They've got to be off the ground for storage. They have to be secure. The sandbags have to be weatherproofed. Sandbag pallets must not be stacked on top of each other, for safety reasons. Sandbags are heavy and will require a person to be able to lift sandbags in the correct manner, etc., etc. RMBC are asking us to store equipment on their behalf, and yet again, they're supplying...
Stuart, you're missing one out. What they're saying, they are very heavy and care must be taken when distributing them.
That's another point. But they're offering absolutely no help whatsoever on how we store them, where we store them, how we distribute them. And as somebody who's got vast experience of sandbags, it's not just a case of handing sandbags out. It has to be done on a planned programme with the correct people and the correct training. We haven't got the place, the time or the money to accept sandbags. It's just not practical.
Yeah, Chair, I quite...
Can I just go back to you there?
No. We've got a fault.
Chair, I quite agree with Councillor Thornton. We haven't needed any in the past. We've not taken the council upon. Let me reiterate that the council has not purchased any sandbags in the past. I don't think we need to in the future. This isn't a initiative by the council to say that we should do it and the borough won't. They're merely trying to be helpful and saying, do you want any sandbags? I don't think we should. That's why I'm moving that we shouldn't have any.
Right. Can I remind the public that this is not open discussion, it's a decision of the council. No, we're not going to, we don't want to hear you talking at this stage. You don't want to hear me? Yeah. No, not at all. Right, we've got a proposal here that we don't accept this offer.
Can I just make a point?
Anybody
Sorry,
second
Councillor.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Councillor
Thank you. I just want to, and I've had my hand up actually, but other people just shout in. I'm just going along really with, up to a point with what Dominic says. I mean, I think in the past, when there have been floods, there have been lots of parishes and areas that have said, we could have done with sandbags. You know, why didn't you let us have any sandbags? Why were there no sandbags distributed? So I think this is an effort to try and be a little bit, to think ahead and just make the offer, that's all. But if we haven't got use for them and we haven't got any place to store them, then it's perhaps not a very useful offer.
Can I just make a comment, Chair? Mr Pearson made the suggestion earlier on of what the parish council are doing about stuff like this. Well, I think at least we should think about, if we don't have sandbags from the Borough Council, we should maybe have empty sandbags and some stand available somewhere that we can actually fill up if we need them. So we have got some sort of...
Well, I think that's more practical.
Well, yeah, this is what I'm saying. I think it's more practical. We don't need filled sandbags all the time. Actually, if we bought some empty ones or we purchased some and we had some sand that we could access easily, we then could fill them as and when if we ever needed them. But to not have anything at all, or even a sort of like something on standby that we can use. I mean, it might be that we have 50 empty sandbags somewhere, and if there's something happens, or we can either store the sand separately. I don't know. You don't have to have sand in sandbags. You can actually put sand into the sandbags, and they don't take as much space up. And I think it's something that we should explore, because who knows if we got a bit of localised flooding, if we got 50 sandbags, they may come in very handy. So it's not actually having them on pallets, it's having the wherewithal to actually create them ourselves and then put it to use. So I think it's something that we should... I don't agree with... I agree not to take that up from the borough, because I think it creates more problems, but I think we should look at an option whereby we can make us own. Yeah, I'm proposing that we look at that as a bit of emergency planning, if you like. Maybe it's time we had some.
And purchase the sand if necessary.
I second that.
Right, with the proposal and second for that. So
I'll withdraw mine.
I'm
happy with that.
John? Sorry, what has been posed exactly?
Proposed is that we actually just purchase 50 empty sand. Or see the borough give us for a start, empty sandbags.
It raises a question really. It's like, you know, sometimes in a parish council we don't think this through. If we just get empty sandbags, first of all, how many times have there been flooding issues in Anston? Now, the audience has said Sykes Road. I don't know if that's unique. Years ago there were problems on High Street, but that was because they were developing the allotment gardens above it. If we have empty sandbags, somebody needs sandbags, where are we going to get the sand from? And does it fall to us to get them filled and pay for the sand? So really, I think, if I would suggest, Clive, that we defer this item and you actually come up with something more long-term, if you like, that will work.
Well, I'm going to make myself very unpopular, especially probably with Clive. As somebody who's got vast experience, I've just said about sandbags, I've filled thousands and thousands of sandbags, and I assure you, 50 sandbags won't do nothing for any flooding. You would need probably 5 to 10 for each, just say for a house in front of the door, you need 5 to 10. And it's not a case of just throwing sandbags down, you have to pack them in. If you get the sand, you've got the problem again of where you're going to store it. It has to be stored in an area that's dry, because if you store it just outside in the rain, it washes away. And it's intensive in manpower to fill sandbags, let alone having a team to move them and then a team to place them. I can see what Clive's saying. Maybe we should explore it, but I believe it's just totally unpracticable.
Right.
I would, but the point I'm trying to make is, it's not a bad idea, but the thing is, it's impractical for a council our size.
Do you want to reinstate your...
Yes, I mean...
Right, we reinstate the proposal. I've a second for this that we...
You know, we don't employ 100 people, do we?
We're we're not going to get...
All it is just trying to think a bit forward, that's
Yeah,
all.
we're not
Something-
taking
just
on
we obviously haven't
the
got anything
sandbags,
in place.
50 sandbags, all packed. We're not taking that on, that's what
No.
the motion's about. All those in favour of that, please show. We're not going to take the 50 pallets of sandbags.
It's not 50 pallets.
Well,
is it?
50 pallets, 50 on a pallet.
Sorry, Chair, I missed the proposal. I do
Oh,
apologise.
there's not, is what we said. We're rejecting the fact that saying no, we don't want it.
So we don't want it.
We don't want the packed pallets and this, we're not going to accept that. With all else to say, dropping on beach. Yeah, that's it. Yes, so propose and second that we just ignore this, we just say thank you very much, but no thanks.
Right.
All those in favour?
Ignore it, put your arm up.
Right, that's good. 9:20. An email from Workshop Against Incineration. What can we do with this?
Chair, I'm sorry.
Can we write back?
Can I speak after Councillor Thornton?
Yes.
John?
Yeah.
You can speak first.
Go on,
Stuart first.
No, Stuart, come on.
My point on this, I've read this through, and I do agree with quite a lot of it. But my indication on this one is, it doesn't look as though there's actually any planning application being forwarded on an official basis. I would suggest that we possibly could write back and say, well, we agree with some points, we can't really make any decisions until we see a planning application, and then we would make a decision on the planning application.
Stuart, that's precisely what I said to the chap when he phoned me up. I said it will come to the council and they will make a decision on how to operate, but you haven't put any planning commission yet. That's how it stood with me.
Chair, it's normal practice between adjoining authorities. If there is a major change proposed within your county or borough, or whatever it is, county council, you would normally tell your planning officers nearby what's going on. So I think the point's well made. Secondly, yes, there have been historical concerns about waste incineration, and I'm thinking of Bernard Road in Sheffield, or just off to the right of the Parkway, which was going when I was on the county council in the early 80s. It is still going. The fact is that a lot of people will object to waste incineration through fear of the unknown. Now, I would trust officers of whichever authority to use their common sense, and if they are allowing almost anything like PCBs, these plastics that are quite revolting, then there is something wrong with the whole system. But if they are burning clean waste, and I'll remind you that we had an application to have a combined heat and power plant in Criverton Station, very roughly. Now that business went bust, but that planning application is still there and it could be reactivated. So I'm not totally in favour of it, but I think we need to calm down and wait till the application comes in before we make any comment. Final point, if you remember your geography from school, the prevailing wind in this country is from the west off the Atlantic, and therefore the poor devils downstream towards Worksop and the A1 are going to enjoy it far more than we're likely to.
Can I just point out quickly, I mean, there was an incineration plant down at Worksop before that burnt down and caused a lot of problems, so we won't say no more on that one. If I've read this rightly, there's already, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying what's true at the moment, there's already plans in place, or going to be plans in place, for an incinerator on Clearlands Lane, I think it is, and I think this is a separate application in Shire Oaks.
Yeah.
So just to point out there that we could have potentially two waste burning incinerators in a very, very close proximity, and it could affect us down there.
It's not actually correct, but Clearlands is a transfer station for taking, you know, the stuff you put in your blue bins, your newspapers and that. That's purely a transfer station, taking it from Worksop there and then being transferred to Mansfield. The one on the Worksop site is that, you know, the planning's not gone in. I think somebody's got hold of an idea. I've actually spoke to the planners in Nottingham. There's no application, there's no nothing, and you know, it's not going anywhere at all at this point in time.
So the one down at Worksop was on an incinerator when somebody set it alight.
But
No,
Martin,
it was a waste transfer station.
that
It wasn't-
caught fire.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't an
That's the
incinerator.
site that they're referring to here, and there were always plans to return this into refuse, because currently what happens is you export and it gets burnt abroad. So burn it on site, you can do it, but it's a long, long way off anything coming to fruition on that.
John.
Can I see that? Address you, Rick?
Chair, what Mr Wild asks is that we support their opposition to these plans, which I get a sense that we don't feel we're ready to do that, but he does also offer to send a speaker to our parish council, and I for one think that'd be helpful. If we could have somebody come and just do, 10 minutes or 5 minutes slot at the beginning, like some of the others. So that's what I'd like to propose, is that we write back and invite them to come along, give us a little bit more detail, and then we can take a decision at that time as to whether or not we wish to...
This is from the chairman of the workshop against incineration.
Yeah.
We should,
So that, I'd like to propose that.
Just I'll put one in, Judy. I am aware this guy's wasted a lot of time, trouble and effort so far for something that is a bit pie in the sky and no facts behind it now. Fine if we want to sit down and have that meeting.
If we can ask them to come and speak for 5 minutes on it, I
John.
think it just gives us a little bit more information, and it also gives them a sense of support, even though we're not actually taking a decision.
Could I move an amendment that the letter goes inviting to speak, but that they come to us once a planning application has been made, so that we're dealing with something substantial.
Could I second that?
Yes.
Yeah, one motion.
To write back and say that no decision can be made until the planning application has been submitted. And the second motion, following on from that, invite them to come and speak.
At that point.
So you can put the
I'm
two
happy,
together.
I'm happy to put them together.
Together. All those in favour, please show. Next one to discuss a letter regarding sponsorship. And this is, I don't think we've sponsored individuals, have we? We don't do that, do we?
Yeah, I just wanted to get somebody from... I'm sure about this.
Victoria Greenhall. She lived in Anderson for 15 years. She's going to the charity arm of the Rotherham United Football Club, and they're trying to raise money for a trip to
Kenya.
Kenya.
Sure. We have done it before. We don't get them very often. I think we do a good job in supporting the community groups we've got in Anston. I'd be quite happy to move that we grant £100 to Victoria. Yes, to the club.
We have to do that before to the school.
Yeah, absolutely, to the organisation.
Dominic, I can't hear you, or Clive, but we can't give it to an individual.
To the Rotherham United Community
All right,
Sports.
yep, okay.
That's what we're sending it.
Yep, fine.
Right, can I come in? The first thing is, I've written on my notes when I've read this through, is, yes, the lady, I don't know the lady, she obviously lives in Northampton, and she's lived here for a number of years. My first question is, what benefit is this to Anston? Now,
I don't think there's any benefit to Anston.
well, that's what I'm saying is, but when we give grants out, normally you would expect, if we're giving money out to people, we should have some form of benefit in return, be it big or small. If we're giving money to Rotherham United Football Club, which I think is being proposed, we do have, and I think it's an unwritten procedure or policy, that if an organisation is here in Anston, we give £100, and if it's outside, it's £50. Can I make an amendment to the £100 to bring it down to £50?
And it's to the Rotherham United Community Sports Trust.
And I think it should be down to £50.
I might be inclined to agree with that. I think our standing orders, Michael, don't they say that it is benefit to one or more individuals in the parish? I think that's enough. I mean, years ago we were sending lorry loads of supplies to former Yugoslavia. We put our mouths, if you like, where our hearts are as well. So I think £50 is very reasonable.
Two things, Chair.
Yes, Julie.
One is that they're offering sponsorship, so, you know, Anston Parish Council logo will be on a T-shirt, which is, that's great. The other thing is just to let you know that Rotherham United Community Sports Trust has done several pieces of work in Anston. It did a piece of work at Woodland Drive over a 6-week period. I know that they're doing some work at Anston Hillcrest School, and I know that currently they're doing quite a lot of work on the social prescribing scheme at Barleycroft Dinnington, which takes people from our area. So I'm just saying that, you know, there is actually the sports trust are putting into Anston as well as, you know, hopefully accepting sponsorship.
Right, can I decision on this? How much?
Let me
just interrupt that, sorry. I was trying to make an amendment to £50 instead of 100. I will withdraw the amendment. And can I make another amendment that if we are of the mind to give £100, it's subject to the proviso that we have a publicity picture from the parish council, i.e. we stood there with a cheque presenting it to the lady, to be put in some form of magazine.
Just make the point, I think it's probably valid, she does actually say assisting teachers in the local primary school. So she probably means that Hillcrest or something, which means...
in Kenya.
Can I just add one to that?
Might have an Anston in Nairobi.
Can I just make one thing? Jodie has to take it on.
Yeah.
Could we ask when she comes back if she actually comes and gives us a presentation on the work that she's done? I think she brings some slides, photographs. I think that would be pretty good as well. So at least we can see what. And if we can get a bigger Anston logo on as possible, that would be like the full back of the shirt or something.
Right, we'll do that.
That would be.
Right, it's 9:30. Somebody's got to move that we suspend standing orders.
Chair, I would like to move again that we dispense with standing orders. I did try to make the effort to bring items forward. Some of the items we've got on this agenda go way back to September, and I think we as councillors have a duty to members of the public to sit down, discuss and get to the business. It's cutting off at 9:30 every time we have a full council meeting is doing nobody good. It's making all our work back up, and it's disappointing the public because they can't hear things that are being discussed. I move that we suspend standing orders.
Can I just add to that? I agree with Councillor Thornton on that regard, but there are some items on there that are, I mean, there are a lot under my name that have been on since October.
That's right.
We're not going to get through them tonight, and they're not going to get the sort of time session that they deserve to be properly discussed. So unless we want to do the last one on Christmas lights, unless everybody wants to go, then all the others that are under my name, I'll defer them to the next meeting, but I'd like them put it at the beginning of the agenda, please, so we can get through.
Can we vote, Chair?
We're not going to have time to discuss them properly tonight.
Deal with the letter about Christmas lights and then close the meeting.
No. Move that we close the meeting, Chair.
Right.
We're doing it just to protect Councillor Dalton again.
Anybody?
Chair, I did say if we could be succinct and to the point, we'd have done it ages ago.
Anybody second that? That we finish it now?
Yeah, me.
Right, we've got a proposal that we finish now. We've got a proposal first of all, I think we have seconds to it, that we continue. All right. Well,
I would, but just to finish that one item off.
Yeah, well,
get
that's
that out of the way.
right. So the amendment is that we actually finish now.
Right, no, the proposal is...
The amendment first.
Just listen to me. The proposal is that we suspend standing orders.
Yeah.
The proposal that we don't do it, negate it, which you've done tonight already, we've negated in this unit. So we vote on whether we're going to suspend standing orders or not. And I'll have a recorded vote, please.
Right.
You can't negate the proposal.
You can have that. You can have that.
I'm sorry, John. I'm not clear. I'm not clear.
You wouldn't need to do this if you don't show up.
I'm not clear. What is it to hear this one item?
To hear
Yes,
this one item.
Just hear the one item.
There are too many others to discuss properly at length.
Right. And we're going to put Clive's others at the beginning as we can. So that's the proposal.
Give him a chance to write his...
We just suspend
The motion is suspend standing orders in order to hear the Christmas light item
and then close.
and then close.
Right. All those in favour, please show.
I ask for recorded vote.
Well, if you can have it recorded if you wish to. Yes.
Councillor Bacon. Councillor Beck.
Against.
Councillor Bridges. Councillor Brimley. Yes. Councillor Burton. Councillor Fowler.
Again.
Councillor Ireland. Councillor Jarvis.
Against.
Councillor Jackson. Councillor O'Brien. Councillor St John.
Against.
Councillor Fulton.
So we carry on.
So the light.
Where's the...
Can I just speak on this, Chair? It's a letter from, well, yeah, there is about the Christmas lights from Mr. Wells, who's not here.
He doesn't live in Aston.
Who doesn't?
He lives across from you, Dan.
He doesn't, well, he might have, but he lived in Anston when I think when
Tim
he wrote
Wells, has
this.
he moved from Nursery Crescent?
He lives,
I am put it this way, I haven't seen him yet, but it's a pertinent question anyway, because this has been raised before by Mrs. Wallhead and various other people. To try and cut it short, I went to the Dinnington Town Council meeting when they raised this, and what they've done, they've had discussions with Blackshare that now provide them for Borough and also Maltby, and I've got a contact of the guy that deals with them, and what I'm quite prepared to do if anybody else wants to join in is have a meeting with this guy from Blackshare. He lives in Rotherham, so he's got no problem turning up. I've got some of the figures as well for Dinnington. I mean, probably most people have seen them. There are 18, and what they do is it's an adapter that's fitted to the lighting column that saves you. You don't actually tap into the mains. It fits somehow on the head of the pole. And these prices are given obviously pertinent to Dinnington, but it's something that I think we need to look at. So I say, if anybody wants to sort of make up a group, see what we can do at either North and South Anston and try and progress it.
No mention of Christmas lights. It just talks about the Christmas tree.
Well, they may be able to supply. I think Dinnington Town Council bought the tree, and I'm not sure. I think they've done the wiring to it though, the lights. So.
Can I say, though, to begin with, Dinnington decided to not fund fireworks, and this was to replace the fireworks. And I think the first thing we need to think about is which, if we can't afford both, which is going to be the priority.
I despair sometimes that we have discussed this for 2 or more years, and we have never, ever come up with a concrete costed solution. And I vote, thank Tim for his email, but the answer at present is no.
Well, that's what I'm offering to do. It's not going to cost the council anything to talk about. Ian, just let me do it. It's a negative.
What, buying land?
Yeah, land that's going to cost us money is a negative.
Julie.
Thank you, Chair. I'd love us to have a Christmas tree. I think it should be part of the budget consultation, and that people should be able to recognise that we can have one thing or the other, possibly the bonfire night, or possibly Christmas decorations, or possibly some other thing. Obviously it costs money. It would be brilliant if we've got enough money to have a Christmas tree and all these other things. So, you know, I'm for having a Christmas tree, but it's got to be part of the budget process.
It's down there already.
Yeah, I mean, this comes up every year, and every year we look silly as a council because we can't get a grip with a simple thing like putting Christmas tree lights on the agenda. Can I just read out the last paragraph? The Christmas tree will light up the community during the darkest days of the year, benefiting the whole of the community for a month. Compared to Anston Day and the fireworks display, it will be better value for money and reach out to far more of the community. Well, just on the fireworks, I think the fireworks are a good thing and they should be kept. Anston Day cost us £2,000, and I think that only lasts for about an afternoon, and I think we'd be better spending the £2,000 on lights and a possible Christmas tree, which would last for a month, rather than Anston Day, which lasts for half a day. But when we do the budget meeting, whenever we do the budget meeting, I will push that we remove the money for Anston Day and put them into Christmas tree lights in future.
Right.
It's more of the community.
Move the vote.
I might add that we need about 6 months to decide where we're going to put the tree. People know that till...
We'll stick the chair of the parish council on top of it.
Yeah.
It might be you.
Right, so Clive's going to get some information for us with the chair.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Okay.